Welcome to the 32081, a podcast where we cover life in the St. Johns County area.
I love being a part of such a great community.
If you're looking for the latest events, school information, local sports, restaurants, real estate news, and more, you've come to the right place. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
The show starts now with your hosts, The Hardy Party.
And welcome to this edition of the 32081. I'm the Todd, and I am excited about this show because we are going to welcome two of the top cheerleading coaches in the area to talk about the middle school and high school cheerleading levels with tryouts quickly approaching right around the corner. And we'd like to go and kick off the show with a look from the middle school perspective and welcome a good friend of the show back again. Here's Coach Taylor Beamer. How are you doing, Coach? Good to talk to you again.
Hi, I'm doing well.
So let's just let's kick it off with the big congratulations to you. You ended your season with finishing second in Tampa at the Diamond Cheer and Dance Championships. VRA finished first. You've had a great 4 years. I mean, between your all-out championship and then you won Diamond last year, now second. So how was the experience for the girls down in Tampa for you, coming in second? I mean, it sounds like you guys did fantastic.
They did very well for their final one and definitely left it all out on the mat. They worked really hard. We put in some changes to bring it up and help our score with the scoring and the score sheets, and raise the bar on some things, but also focused on being able to really make sure we're working the crowd and the cheer and our energy. And they went out there and did exactly that. Really strong final performance for this season.
Now, I also want to talk to you about the season with these girls because I know that there was a lot of shifting around. I know you've had some injuries because I know some of them personally, so I talked to them, and I know that there was a lot of moving around.
There was,
like I said,
this year.
And there were some injuries, as we know. So, I mean, does that make it extra proud for you? Because, I mean, I saw the girls perform at football games. I didn't get a chance, obviously, to see them at Tampa. But you've got to be happy with some of these, the way some of these girls just stepped into these new roles and were able to take charge and finish out strong at the end of the year.
Yeah, we definitely had to, especially the first part of our year. So before the new year rolled over into 2024 to finish out our season, we definitely got hit with a number of bumps in the road and had multiple alternates we had to call up and step into place. And they did great with their job, and some of which it was the night before a competition and had to learn it all completely fresh because they hadn't been around. Like in that particular scenario, they went out on the floor and they hit zero. They definitely have had their trials and bumps in the road this year, which always happens. It did feel a little more extreme than it has in the past with how many we had this year, but they stayed flexible. They stayed focused on what was going to help us do better or attempt to do better for the next one, whatever it was, brand, competition, level adjustments, taking that judge feedback the best we could, tweaking things as needed. They did well with all of that.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about the cheerleaders in the community because I remember, we've known each other, what now, 4 years? And
I know. Actually, probably before that,
it might
because
have
before
been,
PVA started.
That's right. So
as far as cheer.
And I remember you saying something to me. You said, when you were talking about the cheerleaders, you said they're cheerleaders. They are leaders in the community, and they spread positivity around. What I want to ask you is about two things. One, people see you out there. There's two things. I want to talk to you about something people see in the obvious out front, and then one that people don't know about. I'm going to start with the obvious one, is your kitty clinics.
Okay.
Your kitty clinics.
Oh, yes.
Because I was looking at some of the pictures from this previous one, and now
Are you talking about football or the one we just did during basketball?
Actually, both. I was just looking at the one from basketball, but both of them.
Okay.
I mean, I got to tell you, it's so fun to look at the pictures from your kitty clinics, though, because not only do the little kids have big smiles on their faces, but the cheerleaders do too.
Yes.
So it just seems like it's a fun time for everybody all around.
It is. And in that particular scenario and thing that we do, they really shine. I give them basically the bones of what we need done and how we're going to run it or who's going to do what as far as what job. But then when we get there, even though, I'm the coach, so I'm running it, I'm really not. I give them their time frames and I tell them, all right, whose turn it is, or here's what we're doing next, or get them kind of pulled in and focused for them. But from there, it is them. They teach everything. They walk them through everything. They guide them. They help them. It really is all them. Our K-5 kids love them. Like the kindergartners and the first and the second graders just like hang on them. Like they just adore them. They'll see them in the hall afterwards and come up and give them big hugs. They'll, so it just really kind of helps build that connection between the upper and the lower for our girls and our program and potential future cheerleaders.
And now what I want to move to is what I kind of refer to as the quiet big difference community service that you've
Yes.
always done as long as I've known you, involving
Yes.
like beach cleanups and stuff. But
Yes.
the one that I actually ended up hearing from someone and talking to someone about was your involvement at Starling here at the assisted living facility. And I was wondering if you could
Yep.
talk about that, because someone was talking about it and they got a big smile on their face about how they look forward to the PVA cheerleaders coming and how it just brightens up their day. And I was just wondering if you could talk about how special that is, not only for the residents, but also for the girls to be involved in something like that.
Yeah, that is something you actually, I'm trying not to get choked up. You just brought tears in my eyes. That is one that's very special and definitely very unique. That was something that the first year we did it, it just kind of happened. It was an opportunity that became available and we went for it. We went, yeah, sure. They're in our direct community. Community service is a big deal for us. We would love to come see them and interact with them and perform with them. And we did. And on that particular instance, that first year, that first visit, we had everything planned out to show them a little bit of everything, the outside space, and it was raining. And
I remember
so then
that.
Yes. And so then we were inside and we had to basically on the spot completely change our whole plan. And, but I think it made it that much more special for that first one and that much more enjoyable because it was closer, like we were all closer in together, and it allowed for even more interaction that very first time. And then afterwards, we hung around for a little bit more and we played games and we got to know them and them, the girls. And it just really set up kind of that special experience and bond on both, especially since that instance, it happened to be a rainy day. And so it literally brought sunshine to everyone's day and happy hearts and good feeling inside, just all the way across the board for all of us. And like, in the moment, as we were going through it, it was one of those things where I knew I was like, okay, we are going to figure out a way to keep doing this.
Well, and one thing that was interesting, I don't mean to cut you off, but one thing that was interesting is you say sunshine inside. One of the pictures that I remember from that were the residents playing dominoes with a couple of the girls, and all four of them were just laughing. And
they were.
And it was like you went from the outside, and to me, and seeing some of those pictures, and again, I wasn't there. It's just some stuff that I just remember that I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah.
But it just seemed like it was, like you said, it was inside sunshine because it just made a difference in the residents' lives, and I would imagine it also made a difference for the young ladies that participated in the event.
Oh my gosh, they loved it. They were, that picture you're talking about, they were being taught a game that none of them knew how to play by the residents, and it was a game that the residents loved in that particular instance. And this year, right now in Starling, trivia is huge with the residents. So like this year we went and we performed a few things, interacted with them a little bit, and then played trivia. It's neat because the couple of times we have not been able to have that extra interaction in the moment, my girls have come up to me who have been a part of multiple years of it, and they've come up and said, Coach B, we're not going to play games. We're not going to go. And I'm like, oh no, sorry, we couldn't this time. It just didn't work out. And they're like, oh man, that's my favorite part. It's just really neat to see because it brings sunshine and light and happiness across the board to all.
Now let's move on to the coming season. There are probably a lot of students that and young people in the community that have seen the cheerleaders perform or seen them interact, and they're saying, hey, I'm kind of interested in doing that. I'm kind of interested in giving that a shot. What are the steps now for them? Because I know you've got clinics coming out. There's tryouts,
Yes.
which it seems like cheerleading's like golf. It seems like it never ends. Which your husband's a golf coach or used to be. So,
Yeah.
but so what are the next steps, and what should they prepare for going into the clinics, tryouts, and into next season?
Yeah. Well, we had our information meeting this past week, but registration should stay open for a while now. So so it is absolutely still possible to register and try out and get the information they need. They can come see me at school in my classroom. They can reach out via email. They can, however they want to get in touch, and I can make sure to get a packet in their hands or answer any questions as far as our season coming up and forms and all of that. Tryout week is going to be the week of March 25th, which is a short week. So it'll be a 3-day clinic this year, with the 4th day being tryouts because we're not in school on Friday. And we'll be doing a little bit of everything. There'll be a dance, a cheer, they'll tumble, they'll jump, we'll do some stunting. So a little bit of everything involved in the process.
And just to clarify, since this is through SJMSAA,
Mhm.
if a student, say, goes to Palmer Catholic, but they live in 20 Mile in the zone for PVA, they could still
Correct.
try out for the PVA cheer team, correct?
Yes, as long as their home zone, like if
For
they're not in
PVA.
a St. Johns County school district school, yeah, as long as they're zoned for whatever that home school is. So in our case, it would be PVA. Yes, they can register. No different than I've had girls over the years who have been homeschool, but they live in our PVA zone.
Gotcha.
So, yes, absolutely.
Now, the other thing I want to talk about is that, I've had the pleasure of working with you, obviously, and the other coaches, especially through football, such as Coach Tony Hodge, Steve Okla,
Yes. Yes.
Isaac Byers, who was at PIA. You started out at PVA with Tony Hodge.
Yeah.
And you are all so focused on the students. It's not about you. It's about the student athletes. It's about how they're doing in school. It's about, everything else in it. And I want to ask you a question I asked Coach Hodge about early in the season. After the freshman, and you see the coaches out at the high school games, cheering on the players from the previous year.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, I said, how do you feel after the banquet? And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, how do you feel? He's like, I guess it was good. The food was okay. And I'm like, no, I said,
Yeah, like the banquet itself.
I said, did you realize that 2 out of the 3 freshman awards went to your players? Did you realize X number of players started? And he goes, wow, I didn't realize that, which shows how focused all of you are on the student athlete, which is impressive to me. So my question to you is this. I looked at the rosters of the Nease cheerleading team, and Coach Brooks is going to be on a little bit later. And I looked at the Ponte Vedra roster with Angie Baselli, who I know, you talk to a lot and stuff because she used to be at Landrum.
Yes.
Do you ever sit back?
She took over after me.
Yes, she did. Do you ever sit back and really look at the girls and just think about how proud you are of the not the job you've done, but as a team, because they're making impacts after they leave PVA. They're in high school, and I see some of these girls still, and they're just tremendous role models for the girls still in middle school. And at some point, you got to be very proud of the product that's coming out of middle school.
Absolutely. I am very proud of all the girls I've had that have now continued on into high school, whether it be Nease or Ponte Vedra, and the successes they've had, whether I had them when I was with Landrum, or there's some of our first few year PVA girls. They have done amazing. I love watching them through their parents' posts on their successes, through their own social medias and celebrations, whether it's school cheer, all-star cheer, tumbling practices and privates, stunting, and it even goes for my current girls too. And just seeing them come along just in their own love and success and what they want to work and get better at and represent. But it is very neat. I try my best to get to at least a game a season. I think a couple of years I was able to get to a game at Nease, but not Ponte Vedra. This past year I was able to get to a game or two at Ponte Vedra and not Nease, so I try, depending on schedules, and to sit there and watch them is just so cool. One thing I say it for my students, but I also say it for my cheerleaders. It's kind of the saying of, once you're one of my girls, you're always one of my girls. Mm-hmm. And I am here for you. I am cheering for you. I love watching you and will always be excited and happy for you.
Well, Coach, I appreciate you joining us. And I do want to share one little note with everyone, is that I know we're talking about cheerleading here, but we appreciate everything you do for the community, because it's not the cheerleaders, it's all the students, it's all the athletes at PVA that you care about. And one of my favorite memories of you was when we invited you to come out and coach the boys flag football team one night.
God, yeah.
And the boys were so excited to have you out there, and and the boys were funny because
cool.
I told them you were the coach, and they respected that because they love you so much. And I'll never forget the quarterback looking over at you, yelling at you, going, "I need to play." And then you turned and you yelled at me, "Derek needs to play." It was crazy.
I was like, I don't know. And then you showed me the little symbol or hand signal or whatever. And so I gave it. And I was like, I don't know if he was looking at me or looking at you, but somehow we got it to him.
We got it in there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It was funny.
But I just think it's great. I think we really appreciate everything you do for the community. Like, we touched on Starling, but also for all the kids. Well, best of luck to you. And thanks again for joining us here on the podcast.
Thanks.
And thank you, Coach Beamer. And now we like to shift gears to the high school level. I'm very excited to introduce this next coach. She's a local from right here in St. Augustine. She's cheered at the world's level. She's now the coach over at Nease High School. Very excited to have her on for her first time. Welcome to the show, Coach Brooke Lovelace.
Thank you for having me.
I got to tell you, first of all, congratulations. Your third season with the Nease Panthers, and I mean, what a great season. I mean, especially taking your game day and traditional teams to UCA Nationals in Orlando. Both teams did great with game day, making it to the semifinals, and traditional making it to the quarterfinals. Can you just tell the audience a little bit about what the difference is between the two squads?
Yes, of course. So first, I would just like to thank you. Really, one of our main goals this season was to advance from prelims at Nationals, which we achieved for both teams. So that was a very big accomplishment for us. This is our first year having a game day team, so it has a lot of similarities, but also a lot of differences from a traditional competition routine. So a game day routine consists of 4 different things. So first one is a band chant. The second one is a situational sideline cheer, where the girls get something called out from the announcer, and they have to decide if that's an offense or a defense call out, and then they will call the offense or defense cheer that goes for that. And now, it has a crowd.
Now, real quick, I got to ask you something about that. That's an interesting thing, because I don't think a lot of people realize when they're cheering during the game, they kind of know what the flow of the game is going. But in the game day competition, it's like they just know at the spur of the moment, whenever the announcer says, "Oh, the offense has the ball," or the defense is trying to get a stop. They have no idea.
They have no idea leading up to that moment, which is something we didn't even know before starting, having game day this year, that it was like a game time decision. The person that calls that have to know exactly what that leads to. And so that's a lot of pressure, to call that. Like you said, in a football game, it's easy to know if we're on offense or know if we're on defense, but on that game time, call right there, it's a little bit harder of a decision to make.
Yeah, I've been amazed at how the girls at all levels are able to do that, because I'm going, man, as someone, doing stats, you get time to kind of switch, and in this case, you don't. You're actually listening for that, those words, especially over people cheering. So
exactly, and it's supposed to be very loud, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get into discussion, I did want to ask you one other thing, since you mentioned about, and we talked about the game flow. The atmosphere during a football game at Nease, to me, is just incredible being there, because it's not just about the students or the families of the football players showing up or the families of the cheerleaders showing up. It's a true community event. I mean, the stands are packed. What is it like for you on a typical football game night, or even on a basketball game night, when you see all those fans up there screaming under the lights or inside the gymnasium, getting behind the Panthers? Because it just is like an electrifying kind of environment to me. And I've talked to Drafts about it before too, and he agrees.
It is. It's something that I feel I've never even experienced until coaching at Nease. Like you said, it is a full community event that we just really want to be crowd leaders and really help everyone join in on that. And, it's an experience that I tell my girls, we can't take this experience for granted because it's not really an experience that you get at every football field you go to. Like you said, it pulls in everybody more than just football parents. And so I think my girls, they really don't take that for granted. They really want to, lead the crowd and, have everyone involved in everything we're doing and, just really like show all that Nease has to offer.
I think the one thing about the community at Nease is that I think they realize how much all of our student athletes put in. So I think everyone expects that the cheerleaders, just like all the other sports, put a lot of work into how well they do, how they perform, and how well they've done at the competition that we just discussed. Can you tell them a little bit more, though, about what a day in the life of a Nease Panther cheerleader is like?
No, of course. Yeah. So while we have, multiple different teams, our days can kind of all vary greatly. But when I'm talking about an athlete, so we have some athletes who they're on our varsity sideline team, they're on our varsity traditional competition team, and they're also on our game day team. So for an athlete on all three of those teams, they start their day. We have practice. We'll start at 6 a.m. to have a morning practice. And then after that, they'll have to go home to get ready for school. And, as they go to school for the day, they're representing Nease, like you said, both academically and athletically. They're really pulling in all of those things. And we have girls who are in many different academies and programs, IB, they take AP classes. They have programs like communications and engineering and all of those things. So then after they've had their full school day, we typically will have a 2-hour cheer practice after school. And, a lot of these girls then leave here to go to an outside training facility, and they work on continuing to master skills they have or gain new skills, strengthen their skill set. But also going back to, sometimes we end our nights with football games or basketball games or supporting other sports at Nease. So when we're in season, I would say our girls are really busy with both school and cheer responsibilities for most of their hours.
Now, there's some families that just listen or are listening to the podcast, and probably some young ladies out there, too, that are interested saying, hey, I want to be a part of this team. I want to go forward. I want to try out. I want to be a Nease Panther, probably rising middle schools from your feeder programs or people transferring in. What are the steps for them to try out? And also, one other thing I want to throw in here, too, Coach Brooke, is that oddly enough, between the time that you and I have been communicating about doing this podcast, the other question that I've received, because I've been telling them I've been working on this, was, what about the academy students like you just mentioned? Because there's some that are waiting to see if they get into IB or they get into communications, they're waitlisted. So could you kind of talk about the tryout process, and also if there are students that are interested from an academy purpose, but yet, they're waitlisted, what happens if they decide to go to Nease, like say not until July or something like that?
Right, for sure. So our tryout process now will start in the month of April, and we'll have a pre-tryout clinic where we teach our material for tryouts. So that's a dance, a cheer, and a chant. And we also will allow for the girls to kind of stunt together and show, us as a coaching staff what they're working on. So this is a great opportunity for returners, newcomers, and even the ones you just mentioned that they haven't heard back yet. This isn't our actual tryout. This is just a clinic that we host and that we want everyone to be able to come to. So I think no matter what, that's a great place for everyone to start. Our actual tryout process is 3 days long. So the first 2 days are a mix of material that I just shared, but we also add in that stunting and tumbling piece. And as we are working to build, a more competitive program, we're continuing to increase our requirements for each team. So this season, we do plan to have both a stunting and a tumbling requirement to make both of our sideline teams. And so our third day of our tryout process is when the girls will actually try out in front of a panel of judges. And this is done with the stunt groups that have been created leading up to this point. And then they're judged on their cheer, their chant, their dance, along with their stunting, their tumbling, and their jumping, both the difficulty of it and the execution of it. So while our tryouts are judged by an outside judging panel, one thing that's also really important for us is we have a coachability category that we fill out as our Nease cheer staff over the course of tryouts, because of course we're looking for strong cheerleaders, but also positive role models on and off the mat. So, and then we always take it and, those teams are made so that we can start practicing in May right away. Mm-hmm. But we do know that there are circumstances outside of that as well.
Got you. Now, what a lot of people might not know, and I think it's pretty cool, is that you're born and raised here. You're from, right here in St. Augustine.
Yes.
You were originally a gymnast, as we talked about just before we started recording, and you also cheered competitively with Zone, which is right next door to Nease. So
very close.
and you were able to do level 5 and 6 and competed, like you said, in Worlds. So with that said, I'm curious, since you competed prior to being a coach, has that kind of like your feeling? I mean, obviously when you go out on the mat as a competitor, you have a certain feeling like that butterflies, whatever you want to call it, in your stomach.
Yes.
So now you're coaching and you go down to, nationals, the UCA in Orlando. Did you have the same type of feelings as you did when you were a competitor as a coach? Are they different? I mean, I'm kind of curious about that.
So I would say you definitely still have those same feelings arise. I would say as a coach, it's more nerve-wracking than when you're an athlete. So, everything you've done up to that moment, we have late practices, we have early practices, we have extra practices, all of the range of all of the things, they determine what they will decide to do and they take the mat. So everything that we have all worked so hard to up to that moment. But as we know with cheer routines, you get one shot. So routines, they can go one or two ways, but every athlete has to have the most confidence they can, not only in themselves, but of course in each other, and have that mutual trust and understanding that when they take the mat, they have to put out the best routine they can for each other. And I feel it's more nerve-wracking as a coach because once they step on that mat together, the only thing I can do is support and cheer from the front. I'm not actually on the mat with them, and we can just hope that everything we've done up to that point has prepared them, that I prepared them the best I can. But, of course, the feeling you feel from the front, it's the same adrenaline, but you feel you have a different, mindset about it, because those moments that I've gotten to experience are past for me now. And so I think it's almost, thinking back, those feelings, but you have a different outlook on it. And it definitely is a more nerve-wracking feeling, which I could not have ever thought as an athlete that was true.
I can't even imagine. So I'm totally thrilled that Nease did as well as they did at UCA Nationals. That's fantastic. And it's kind of funny just hearing I mean, in a positive way. It's
yes.
funny, to hear your experience and as a coach, how you're viewing your team and stuff. And one thing that you and I were talking about with, you being at Zone is you keep talking about hitting the mat. And obviously practice based in high school, because I have a niece also that cheers in a high school in Jacksonville. And we were talking that a lot of people don't realize that unlike competitive cheer teams or all-star cheer teams, a lot of people know them by, they have their own area with their mats and their floors and everything else. High school doesn't have that. Obviously, you don't have a tumbling gym. So there's expenses included with trying to get to other gyms, try to use workout. You're working out in different areas, obviously the uniforms and travel. So with it not being an expensive sport, one thing I always like to bring up, like we did with the Pantherettes earlier in the year, is are there opportunities for businesses in the area to help out and defray some of those costs through sponsorships or whatnot with the Panther cheerleading squad?
For sure. So actually for the first time in Nease history, and this is actually my first time announcing this, this upcoming season, we will have 5 different teams. So we'll still have our varsity and our JV sideline team. And then as well as what we spoke about earlier, we'll have our varsity traditional competition team and our game day team. But we're also going to be adding a JV traditional team. So there's been that in the past, but not since I've been at Nease. So this will be our first time having 5 different teams. So of course, like you said, we have purchasing new uniforms, we have to pay facility costs to practice off campus. We're going to work hard to take all 3 of our teams this year to nationals. So for reference, when you stay at nationals, it's almost $900 an athlete. So we're always looking for like local businesses who would like to donate to our program to really help assist with these large costs. So one of our biggest fundraisers every year is our Cub Camp. And we love to show our support to these businesses that make donations to our program by putting their logo on the back of our Cub Camp t-shirts, which every year we have at least 150 kids attend. So if anyone is listening and even has a kindergarten through 5th grade aged kid, and we would love for them to join our Cub Camp over the summer, as that's one of our biggest fundraisers as well. And so they can kind of follow along with that, as we would love to have as many people in our community attend as we can.
So when you talk about costs, just to throw this in there, for those that don't know, UCA Nationals that you attended were down in Orlando at the ESPN Wide World Sports Did I say that right? Wide World of Sports.
Yeah, Wide
ESPN,
World
right.
of Sports.
Sports. And so just for everyone to understand what the cost is there, imagine taking a family of 4 to Walt Disney World. Now imagine taking 20 plus cheerleaders to ESPN Wide World of Sports to compete at Disney. So there's your cost.
Yes.
Right there. So,
Right, exactly. We had 30 athletes this past season.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And so next year, expanding that probably even more. It is a big cost, but like you said, it really is an experience like no other, of course, but getting there cost wise is, a lot to expect.
Well, Coach Brooke, I can't say, but very, very proud of the Nease Panther cheerleader squad. And I got to tell you, on Friday nights, I'm at every game. You all do a fantastic job. It's amazing to watch the girls and get the crowd fired up and support the teams, both JV and varsity, whether it's a Thursday night. Sometimes we have Wednesday night games, don't we? Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. You do a fantastic job. Congratulations on making history in Orlando. We appreciate you being on the show, and hopefully we can speak some more during the season.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, that's all for this edition of the 32081. I'd like to thank Coach Beamer and Coach Lovelace for coming on the show. And also remember, if you're interested in middle school tryouts, go over and take a look at the SJMSAA website for any information regarding your school, and you can reach out to the coach there. And also, if you're interested in more information about the Nease Panthers cheerleading squad, please feel free to check out Nease Athletics, and you can contact Coach Brooke directly through the site as well. It's got the email and the contact information right there. Once again, thank you for listening to the 32081. I'm the Todd, and we will catch you next time right here.
Thank you for listening to the 32081. We hope you enjoyed today's episode.
I love the show, guys. You're awesome.
Please don't forget to subscribe to the show so you can join us for the next episode.
I never miss an episode. It's the best.
Until next time, take care.